All right, line up, everybody.
Okay, kids, we got one more event until sundown, so I better see a little bit of more action, okay? All right, I understand that none of y'all may want to be here, myself included. Some of you may have wanted to been to Camp Nightmare or Camp Cold Lake. Stop grabbing your crotch, thank you. Now, down to brass tacks.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Well, isn't that great? The quiet one decides to speak up. Well, what can I do for you?
Sir, I just want to go home and play Fortnite for. Sir, my mom just bought me V-Bucks, sir. I want to get a new skin, sir.
Well, there's one problem with that, bucko. No one leaves Camp JellyJam, right? Well... wait! Camp Nightmare is better anyway.
That's good.
You know, I don't know why, but I love when Goosebump books take place at summer camp.
It's a setting that R.L. Stine has used a decent bit, especially in the original series from the 1990s. There's just something cool and strangely calming to me about that particular setting. And if you ask me, it's brought some of the best stories out of the entire series. From Ghost Camp to Camp Cold Lake to my personal favorite and all-time great, Camp Nightmare. It's a setting that R.L. Stine writes really, really well. And each of these books are very well liked for a good reason. They're all very solid reads. And they all do different things with the same setting, involving aliens, ghosts, etc.
But today we're going to talk about perhaps the most well-liked of them all, and that is the horror at Camp JellyJam.
Now, the book has a solid main duo in Wendy and her brother Elliot, an interesting setup, and a Twilight Zone-like mystery that hides beneath the strange and secluded Camp JellyJam. And like many Goosebump books I enjoy, this is one that I really wish was 50 to 100 pages longer to really flesh out this world that he has here. But let's set up the story real quick. Wendy and her brother Elliot are separated from their parents after the trailer attached to their parents' vehicle suddenly separates with Wendy and Elliot inside. The trailer crashes down the side of a mountain, to which Wendy and Elliot strangely survive with little injury, and they're eventually recovered by a strange, smiling man named Buddy. Now, quick side note. I thought Buddy was a really interesting and kind of cool character. I would love to know what his backstory was. Actually, in that case, I'd love to know the backstory of a lot of what happens in JellyJam. Buddy welcomes them to Camp JellyJam, where everyone is all too happy to be there. The campers keep muttering the strange mantra, "only the best," and every so often the ground rumbles for some unknown reason. Things take a turn for the worse, though, as Wendy realizes that every time she tries to phone out for their parents, the line is interrupted. A strange ceremony takes place at night, and the next day, kids are disappearing. The story does not slap you with the answers to what's happening all at once. It does a good job at kind of drip feeding you just enough moments of tension to keep you engaged until the actual horror at the end is revealed. So, the pacing is well done for a Goosebumps book, and the characters are fun enough and interesting for the most part. Though again, I think that a lot of the tricks that R.L. Stine pulls here are kind of retreads from Camp Nightmare, albeit not as good. Just my opinion. Just me, guys. I still really enjoy Camp JellyJam, but I think a lot of what he did there, he already accomplished with this book. I will say, though, the final 35-ish pages of this are really, really good. It's almost like R.L. Stine got close to page 100 and remembered, oh crap, I better get to what's actually going on here. I better show them the beast that I'm alluding to the whole time. But we do get the adventure, like I said, in that last 35 or so pages of Wendy kind of uncovering the truth behind the hidden cult that involves the camp counselors, as well as the final reveal of the mind-controlling gigantic monster King JellyJam. I just wish we got a little more time with him. And also, if I'm being honest, this is not a bash session, guys, I promise. I do like the book a lot, so please don't take this too negatively. I'm just giving you all my honest thoughts about it, because that's what you guys will get on this channel. I wish R.L. Stine made King JellyJam just a little bit creepier. Like I said, we hear stories about him eating kids, but it never actually takes place in the book, which might have been really cool and horrifying to read about. Sweating of the snails is really creepy though, and that definitely made my skin crawl. There's also no real twist at the end of this book, which isn't a deal breaker for me, but it's something to note for this review. Overall, guys, I'm going to give this book a solid 8 out of 10. I know that score might be a little disappointing for some of you, but I want to give my honest opinion. I'm not trying to be super edgy with that. You know, I know that this book is very beloved. That doesn't go over my head with that. You know, I'm very aware that this book is very, very loved, and it's for good reason. There is a lot of cool stuff here. I think if I would have read this camp book before any other camp books, I might have even scored it higher, but because I read this post Camp Nightmare and I saw a lot of the similarities, I think it probably made me less surprised, let's say, by, you know, the camp counselors acting weird, the mystery going on. Although I will say this, I probably would have liked, you know, the reasons behind what's happening in JellyJam more than I would have in Camp Nightmare upon first read. But again, I've kind of warmed up to Camp Nightmare even more since I first read it, and my opinion still kind of stays the same with that. Oh, there comes the fire again. But again, guys, the characters are done well. The mystery is gripping enough that if you're a first-time reader of the story, you'll be properly disturbed by it. You know, there's no doubt about that. What's happening beneath this happy-go-lucky camp is something worth reading about. Take this book camping with you, honestly. Get the whole kind of experience with it. Be out in the environment, in the elements, in front of a campfire. Bring a nightlight to read it. It'll match that vibe perfectly. If Goosebumps could have a comfort read, I think that's what this book is. So there you go, guys. The much-awaited, much-beloved The Horror at Camp JellyJam. That is my review. I'm the Midnight Chronicler. Love doing this with you guys. This was so much fun. The whole experience of doing a book each week. I loved it. I love making the skits. This video took a ton of time to do, but it was super rewarding. I can't wait for you guys all to see this and to comment on it, and let's have a discussion. Everyone, please be respectful of opinions. If you guys give this book a 10 out of 10, awesome. If it's a 1 out of 10 for you, awesome. But that's all I got for you guys. It is time to read your thoughts on this book. I asked you guys to leave your reviews in the comments section the last couple weeks. You guys have done so. It is a fantastic list of questions that you guys left for me. I can't wait for you guys to see my reaction to your reviews, the discussion that we can have for it. Let's have some fun. Here we go, guys. Holy mother of God. This is going to be a long fucking video. Okay, guys, it is time to read your reviews of this book. I cannot wait to read everyone's thoughts and opinions. This poll was the most hotly contested that I've had with these Goosebump weekly reads. It was literally, and I'm not even kidding, it was almost a three-way tie between Camp Nightmare, JellyJam, and Ghost Camp. And I think it was literally something like 32%, 33%, and 35%. I was just blown away. It's so exciting and so cool to see everyone have such great passion and love for the Goosebump books, and specifically the camp books, just like I do. I can't thank you guys enough for being here week after week, participating. It's so cool to read your responses and have a discussion about it on this video and down in the comment section, guys. Also, if you have not, please consider subscribing to the channel. Goosebumps, fantasy, whatever we feel like reading, we read and talk about here on the channel. So guys, I cannot wait to start this discussion with the incredible Michael Goosebumps fan. What is up, MBG? Michael Goosebumps fan says, look, man, I love JellyJam and most of Camp Nightmare, but they just don't come anywhere close to Ghost Camp for me. Such a scary book. Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed all three of them. If I had to rank them personally, MBG, I'd probably say Ghost Camp third, then JellyJam, and then Camp Nightmare. It's so cool because everyone that's a fan of each just are staunch defenders of them. You know, like they swear that the one that they like the best is the best. And to me, you know, I know obviously MBG is saying he enjoys all of them, but I really, really think that Camp Nightmare is the best, bar none. It was the first camp book in the original 62, but definitely see where MBG's coming from with Ghost Camp. That book's got a lot of really scary moments in it. I think I even had a moment show up on my top 5 disturbing Goosebump moments video, which you guys can check out on the channel. Super creepy book for sure. JellyJam more on the silly side, and Camp Nightmare I think has a little bit more of like a mix between the two. The ever gracious and awesome Michael Goosebumps fan, thank you so much, man. Thanks for the comment. Great discussion. Next up, we have the incredible Shady Side Library. What's up, Shady? Shady says, the horror at Camp JellyJam is by far my favorite camp book. That's because it's the most zany. I'll admit, a sports camp is a little boring to read about, but the absolutely bonkers reveal of this book makes it so incredibly memorable and fun to look back on. Yeah, this book definitely, like I mentioned, it's certainly the goofiest, I guess, in a way, of the three. You know, Camp JellyJam in itself, it is just kind of all over the place in that sense. You know, the mystery at the end, you know, is really cool, and it's a nice payoff. And I think, you know, if you're reading the book, you can see that creature in your head, and you're like, wow, that's really disturbing. And the whole hypnotic trance that the camp counselors are under because of it is really neat as well. So totally agree. It's kind of the funnest in that way, and the whole like king coin thing, you know, the gathering and the earning of the king coins and like what they actually mean and stuff definitely is a good hook for the book, and you know, gives the characters something to kind of collect as we go along. It's like a progress thing. So really like that. Yeah, I agree, Shady Side. It is a ton of fun in that way, and I had a great time with this book, and I thank you again, sir, for your comment on this video and your thoughts to review. Thanks so much. Next up, guys, we have a good friend of the channel. That is Kite562 Reviews, who says, Ghost Camp is one of my favorite stories. The classic cover drew me to it, and the story was quite memorable for me. I don't know if it has an episode adaptation or not. However, the book holds a special place in my heart no matter how old I get. That would be a good question, Kite, because I'm not sure if it does. I haven't watched all the original Goosebump episodes. I remember renting quite a few from like my local movie rental place. It was called Box Seat Video, actually. Love that place. Wish it was still around. But no, I've never seen it myself personally. But again, Ghost Camp, incredible book. Really enjoy that. And thanks so much, Kite, for your comment. Next up, we have Frederick Greer, who is here again. What is up, Frederick? Thanks so much for being here, man, and leaving your thoughts. The horror Camp JellyJam was recommended to me back then, and I have to say it's definitely one of the weirder ones from the original series, but in a good way. It's so weird and bizarre that it's about a group of counselors worshiping a monster that's made of jelly. If Stein really did write this book, he must have had fun with it. It's really shocking that he can show a monster eating kids alive in a kid's book, and that it's warped. Oh well, I guess Goosebumps is supposed to show us weird and bizarre stuff. Really enjoyed this one. 9 out of 10. King coins. Yeah, definitely agree, Frederick. This book, you know, that's again something that I mentioned in the review. I wish that it would have gotten a tad bit more serious, like, and made King JellyJam maybe a tad bit scarier, because, you know, we hear these things about, oh, you know, the earth is shaking, and, you know, he eats kids and stuff, but we never really see that occur, though, in the book. It is mentioned, and actually I just finished it, so I would kind of know. We don't really see it happen in the book. You know, at the very end, they defeat him by like lying on the ground and stuff, and he can't reach them because he's so large and everything, which, you know, that's, why wouldn't they have thought to do that before? I don't know. You know, who's exactly holding the kids hostage there? You know, it's weird because the campers that are washing him off clearly aren't mind controlled by him, so why are they stuck doing that? Because the camp counselors clearly aren't guarding the door to the dungeon where the king is like staying. And okay, so they'll wash them, and if they don't, he'll eat them. I don't know what I mean. And actually, when he eats the kids, it must, you know, destroy them, because basically none of the kids are like floating in his belly or whatever, or they turn to slugs and they pop out of him. I don't know. All of it is zany, all of it's wacky. It's a good, fun Goosebump read, and that's what I came for. If that's what you go into this book hoping for, that's what you'll get. And again, great comment, Frederick. Appreciate you being here, man. Good thoughts. All right, guys, and we're just getting warmed up here now. We have a ton of comments. It's so cool to see. Next up, guys, and if I butcher anyone's username, I apologize. But next up, we have another really good friend of the channel that I see frequently in the comment sections. That is M1K3L1F3. God, it took me like 3 takes to get that right. My friend with the duck icon, basically. Duck here says, bizarre, brutal, and full of dread. Definitely can see that. Definitely great buzzwords to use for the book. Camp JellyJam hits a home run on what makes Goosebumps great. What an awesome sentence. And I definitely agree. It is Goosebumps to the core in all the best ways. They continue saying, isolation from an authority figure a kid would trust. 90s clueless parental endangerism. Is that a word? The scene letting the kids ride in a tow-along trailer. Yikes. Yeah, I was reading that going, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that. And I think in the book they do recognize that they shouldn't be in the back of the trailer like that. M1K goes on to say, a fun mythical monster that is given just enough info to stir the imagination. Man, you're reviewing this book better than I am. One of the best camp books of the whole Goosebumps universe. 8 out of 10. We are on the same exact page, man. I loved your comment. That was perfectly written. Agree with every single bit of it. And I love that you mentioned the 90s aspect of it too. You know, a lot of people nowadays, if you're younger and reading Goosebumps from like, you know, the 90s original series, you can kind of put the scenarios in a modern setting if you want. But when I read Goosebumps, the books are always in that kind of fuzzy 90s apparel setting kind of style, right? And I love that about the book. Every time I read a Goosebump book, it's always like I'm watching a higher budget version of the TV show, if that makes sense. I mean, some of you guys might know what I mean by that, but I just love it. And yeah, every word that you said, man, again, perfect. Yep. Totally agree. There's nothing to add to what you said. Next up, guys, we have a really long comment here from Brian SEAY8242, who says, I just reread it listening to the audiobook, and at 38 years old, I still love the horror Camp JellyJam just as much as I did as a child when I first read it. Starting with the cover itself, it's so creepy. You have Buddy front and center on the cover. I guess it's Buddy, right? I mean, the kid's hair is dark, and I think in the book they make a note to say that Buddy's hair is gold. But yeah, it could be Buddy. Anyway, it's so creepy as you have Buddy front and center on the cover with a wide, freakish smile, showing a mouthful of teeth and manic bloodshot eyes. That is nightmare fuel in itself. Yeah, this book cover is actually one that, if you see it from afar, looks kind of silly and, you know, pretty tame actually, but when you get closer to it, you do kind of see how disturbing and like out of touch and whacked out the camp counselor is here, which is awesome. With the background behind him of a cloudy sunset sky and fog lingering around the dorms, give off the sense of something ominous about to take place. What is this horror at Camp JellyJam? The original cover is perfect at concealing the truth behind this camp, which unfortunately I can't say about the new cover edition that spoils the major reveal. Oh, don't even get me started. I don't even want to see that. I think I have seen the cover, but I don't ever want to own that version of this book because that is so... It's just so modern in a gross way, isn't it? Like this book, you read it and you think, oh, it's kind of wacky. It's a wacky story. It gives, the cover perfectly emulates the story, which is a camp that on the surface seems nice and friendly and happy, but something dangerous going on underneath, kind of like the text that says the horror at Camp JellyJam, which is beneath, you know, it's beneath the picture, it's beneath the counselor, it's beneath the whole campground on the back. It invites you, but it does not spoil it for you. So yeah, very, very good point, Brian. Brian goes on to say, anyways, what I love about the story, apart from it being a camp book, Stein writes great stories around this theme. Yes, agreed. And the original idea of camp counselors being controlled by a blob monster, the mystery aspect of it, as our main protagonist Wendy is hit with so many questions concerning Kyle, King JellyJam sports camp, from the campers disappearing to from the meaning behind the often quoted camp's motto, only the best, to the ground shaking, to what did Alicia see that freaked her out? Maybe she saw someone getting eaten. There's so many questions stirring up within the reader, heightening the suspense until the major reveal. I love it. The idea of kids cleaning and washing a blob monster may not appear as threatening and may be silly like the sponge monster from A Camp Beneath the Sink, but like that monster, King JellyJam and the way he operates is an interesting and original concept. Overall, a great book. I'd rate it a 9 out of 10. Sorry, Brian. Readers may have other lingering questions as the dust settles that the book never answers. But hey, we're in Goosebump territory and not all the I's are dotted and its T's are crossed. So I've come to accept that from Goosebumps as an adult. Another really, really fantastic comment that brings up a lot of points that I thought to bring up earlier and didn't. So I'm very, very glad I read this comment. Brian mentions about there's a lot of backstory here that could be delved into that's not. Yeah, there is. I thought, how cool would a prequel that kind of sets up where King JellyJam came from, the first couple counselors? What was Camp JellyJam before it became Camp JellyJam? Was it a different camp? Oh my God. What if there was a thing where it used to be Ghost Camp, or it was the same camp as that, or the same camp as Cold Lake, and then King JellyJam came in and just corrupted it even further? That would be pretty cool. Anyway, from Brian here, a ton of great points. The 9 out of 10, definitely can see someone giving it that. You guys kind of said it all, man. I don't even really have a ton of comments back to that because you wrote so much, Brian, which I appreciate. Please feel free to come back and write some more comments in the future. And I think you also made a good point with, it's a Goosebump book, so some of the fun is inferring a lot of your own info on the story. So yeah, R.L. Stein doesn't explain everything. He doesn't really, go into too much detail as to why this or that. And I think it's a fun exercise to be like, okay, my brain will fill in the gaps to what maybe he's pointing to here. And I think Camp Cold Lake is a lot like that as well, because Camp Cold Lake is so dripping with a message that I think is actually pretty adult for a kid's book. I won't go into it here. I do have a review on the channel that kind of describes that if you guys want to check it out. But man, a lot of great points there. Definitely, totally agreed. You guys are making me think more about this. Next up, we have Mel's1999. What is up, Mel's? Who says, I love this book. It's so creepy and unsettling and so cult-like. Yes, definitely cult-like. And that's something else where if you think of Camp JellyJam in that manner, which, it is, but it's also a kid's book, so they're not going to get too super into cults. But I personally enjoy the camp books a lot. I like this one is a bit different. Inside a sports camp. Original cover is great. Doesn't spoil anything in the book, unlike the newer cover art. Just went over that. Again, great point. I wish that the newer books did not do that. I really like the protagonists in this one, and they don't come off as too annoying, and they feel like real siblings. Yeah, I agree. They definitely do. I don't think that Elliot, is an annoying younger sibling like you typically see in Goosebump books. I think Wendy is a fine enough protagonist. Again, a little bit of the typical Goosebump tropes going on here, though, where you still have her being like, we gotta get out of here, and the younger sibling doesn't want to go. And she's the girl that cried wolf basically about this camp, and no one's really buying into it. So you do have that going on, which is that tends to get a little bit old after a while. But Mel also says, I wish this book got a TV episode because it would have been my favorite and been so cool. I rate this book an 8.5 out of 10. Again, very, very close in ratings for everybody. High 8s, low 9s, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think that they would have done they wouldn't have done this book justice if they made a TV episode about it in the 90s. They wouldn't have had the budget to do it right. Camp JellyJam in my head is kind of this big, vast camp. The whole action scene too of the trailer kind of unhooking and the kids falling through the woods and stuff and crashing. They probably would have done that in a cheap way as well. So I'm kind of glad they didn't make this into an episode. If they could do it in a way, in a perfect world with a big budget, and they could really do everything justice and do King JellyJam justice, this would actually make a really cool, probably TV series in my opinion. You do a couple episodes, not like 10 or 15 episodes, but maybe like 5, where you could kind of delve into the mystery, get to know the kids a little bit better, and have it like slowly drip feed what's going on with the rumbling and everything. That would have been really cool. But yeah, great comment, Mel's. Agree. Thank you for being here. Next up, we have Derpy Kirby, who is another regular. What is up, Derpy Kirby? Great name still. Who says, I enjoyed this book more than I thought I would. Usually the camp stories and Goosebumps are hit or miss for me because I never really had that experience as a kid. You know, that's a good point. I actually did go to summer camp. I hated it, funny enough. So I don't know why I really like the summer camp books here so much, but I digress. I wonder if anyone else in the comments has been to summer camp, and is that a reason why you enjoy reading these books? I did camp a lot as a kid. I loved to camp, but summer camp I wasn't a big fan of. Anyway, the intro scene is one of my favorites in this book because you'll think it'll be one of those classic Stein early chapter pranks, and then it isn't. Yeah, they're in actual danger. In any other book, you'd think, oh, no, you know, the trailer broke off and they're falling back, and then, oh, the main protagonist wakes up from a nap or something. And that's not what happens. He takes it serious, which again, R.L. Stein, take it serious. Not everything has to be a fake out. But I guess I'm telling him this 30 years too late. Anyway, it's a shocking scene, although the logistics of it tick me off a little. Yeah, agreed. Like, why would these parents let their kids go into a hitch trailer while they're driving? Agreed. Super dangerous, bad parenting 101. Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the camping story where the disappearing camper's plot point is actually pretty effective for me because you can tell it's building up to something. I also think Alicia is one of my favorite characters in the book, and I really like her arc and role in the story. You know, before I get to the end of Mel's comment, I do wonder what I would have thought of this book if I had read it before Camp Nightmare, because Camp Nightmare, the whole disappearing kids aspect of it is really, really intriguing, really intense, and I actually like the way that Camp Nightmare did that better than the way JellyJam did it, because Camp Nightmare had like injuries occur. The camp counselors, like in JellyJam, you feel like you can trust Buddy in a way. Like, Buddy's not gonna try to kill any of the kids. He's not gonna hurt them, at least. In Camp Nightmare, that stuff was happening. Like, counselors were kind of just being totally neglectful to the kids and not helping them. And there was definitely something crazy going on. Like, remember, if you guys have seen my 5 disturbing scenes, in Camp Nightmare, a counselor actually whips a baseball into the back of a kid's head and, like, maybe or maybe doesn't make them drop dead. Like, it's crazy. But anyway, yeah, in JellyJam, it's a little bit friendlier, if you want to call it that way, the way that the kids kind of disappear. But there is still the whole, like, phone lines don't work and stuff. There is definitely a good mystery set up there. But anyway, Derpy Kirby finishes up with the monster overall, it's all right for me. Feels like a classic Goosebump monster. Yeah, it does. Very Monster Blood-ish. You know, all the typical things there. Although I like the imagery of the sweating snails. See, I wasn't crazy about the whole sweating snail stuff because I was like, okay, so why is he sweating so much? Like, why is it snails? It's just because it's gross, I guess. Like, and like, what purpose do the snails serve? Like, is it a thing where does he eat kids and the kids turn into snails? And like, that just came off as he was just trying to be maybe a little bit shocking with that, which I'm sure that's what it was. Anyways, sorry this was so long. I just really love giving my thoughts. I'd give this book a solid B tier. No, never apologize anyone out there for giving a real long comment like this. It just makes the video that much longer, and hopefully people enjoy it that much more. But I really, really enjoy reading everyone's comments on this. Doesn't matter if it's a sentence or if it's a paragraph, I'll read it off. If people don't want to read it or don't want to hear it, they can skip forward and just hear my answer, whatever you guys want to do. But never, ever feel shame for writing a long comment. Love reading it. Thank you so much, Derpy Kirby. Next, we have J619-F, who says, I like it. Sure, the main villain is dumb, but funny, and the ending is weak, but I still enjoy it. Yeah, the ending I wasn't super blown away by, you know, and again, I don't mean to keep bringing up Camp Nightmare, but I like the book. In Camp Nightmare, you have that ending that is truly, you know, whether you like it or not, it is a pretty insane twist, you know. And in this one, it's a kind of a fake out, a real weak sort of, not really a twist ending, but that's what you have. But yeah, totally agree. Good comment. All right, guys, next up we have Goosebumps for Dummies. What is up, Goosebumps for Dummies? He says, the most overrated Goosebump book of all time. Of all time? I have to think about that one. Goosebumps for Dummies says, now to be clear, I still like it, but tons of people say it's their favorite book in the whole series, which is probably thanks to Goosebumps Odyssey fan popularizing it. I actually didn't know that he did, so that's pretty interesting info there. I knew that it had its kind of following. You know, I've seen a lot of talk online about Camp JellyJam, and like when I read it, I thought, you know, it's good. It's a good camps book or a good camp book. Yeah, I didn't really see a ton of, like, you know, if we want to call it cult following, cult status for this book, but I can definitely kind of see that. Goosebumps for Dummies goes on to say, the book itself is pretty good. Yeah, agreed. Not much to say about it. The hypnosis stuff was particularly neat, though. 8 out of 10, decently overhyped. So yeah, this book is really well beloved, and I wouldn't count myself in the, you know, this is the best Goosebump book or my favorite or you know, my top 3. I don't think it's in my top 3. I'd have to look at my latest top 10. I think it's in my top 5 or 10 though. But it is a good book, and I can see why people would like it a lot. And the mystery here, like I said, especially if you're unlike me and you haven't read other camp books before this and this was your first, I can see why you would like it as much as you do, or someone else would like it as much as they do. But hey, you know, to each his own with that. Thanks so much, Goosebumps for Dummies. Great comment as always. Finally, guys, we're finishing off with someone whose username I have had a hell of a time trying to pronounce, so I apologize to my friend here, the Valverdmus Prime. Man, that was the best I can do with that one. Thank you so much for the comment. Prime says, this book is a nightmare come to life. Being split from your parents is one thing, but a summer camp where the counselors are happy zombies, sacrificing kids to a monster, yeah, that's pretty disturbing in itself, I gotta say. Get me the fudge out of here, Prime says. Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a nightmare come to life for kids because, you know, first off, being separated, and then to have the kids not really mind that they're at the summer camp alone and with no communication to their parents, who are probably, you know, terrified about what's happened to them, maybe even thinking that they passed away in that crash. You know, who knows? It is a terrifying thought, but overall, it is an really, really big honor to be here with you guys to do these books week by week. This will be the final voting poll book that we do, guys, on Goosebumps for a little while. I need a little bit of a break. I know it's been like a couple weeks since I did a video like this, but these videos take a lot of time to do, guys, and lately just life's been kind of crazy, so I apologize for that. But the support that I've gotten, the votes, the comments, the opinions, the discussions we've all had about these books has been so freaking fun. I love it. You guys are the best out there. Appreciate y'all. Midnight Chronicler saying goodnight. Bye, everybody. Go ahead.
I can't make my face.